It all happened like I knew it would. A single drop of source magic. And, like flies to honey, the monsters swarmed. The rebel panicked. The carnage began. And the Magisters pointed their fingers at me. Just as I'd planned. I was shackled and collared, and sent to Fort Joy. I'd come here to kill Godwoken. But instead I became part of their story.
A new dawn, a new day. Now, to get control of this barge before sundown. What are you smiling about?
What a well of knowledge this tome is. Dallas is such a dear lending it to me. You're up. There. Not too tight, I hope. The collar, I mean. Oh, not to worry. Every dog has to get used to its leash. In the meantime, your next stop will be Magister William. All passengers have to be registered in the ship's manifest, and he's the chap in charge of the logs. You'll find him on the other side of this deck, in the officers' quarters. Why, for my peace of mind, of course. Why don't you try casting one of those source spells of yours? See what happens.
Currents of magic surge inside you, boiling, bursting, then breaking, only to fade back into your soul like rain into the earth.
My, look at the concentration on your face. All will, but no result. There you have it, see? The collar's function. It neuters you, of sorts. Makes you unable to cast source. For your own peace of mind, of course. Yours and the whole world's. Oh dear. I'm afraid you're a long way from home, my lord. A long way from the little bells that make footmen come a-running.
Index fingers pressed to her lips, she pauses a moment to give you a scrutinizing gander.
My word, you do seem a bit befuddled, don't you? Perhaps I was a bit too generous with that sedative. Oh well, I'm sure you'll soon gather your wits. Most likely. Eventually. In the meantime, all you need to know is that we're en route to Fort Joy. A new life awaits. And if you're a particularly good boy, perhaps a cure as well. An end to Source. For good.
No known associates. In fact, he seemed quite averse to spending time with the others.
What a well of knowledge this tome is. Dallas is such a dear lending it to me.
A young Magister stands pale and silent. Her knuckles whiten around her weapon as you pass.
Good.
Behind the Magister, a bloodied mass lies in a heap. Gore and limbs lie at odd angles. You can't make out a face amid the mess.
There's been a murder. A sorcerer was killed by one of your own. Lucky you were busy getting your collar fitted at the time, or you'd be a suspect like the rest of them. Waters is investigating. She'll figure out who did it. Or aren't you enterprising? I'll let Waters tell you no herself. Go ahead. She with the body.
Ugly sight, isn't it? Burns me up this happened under our protection. We're extremely lucky no Voidwalker followed the source that did this. Finn didn't see it like that. He was desperate for us to help him. Two things scared the living daylights out of him. His own shadow and his own source. We'll find out who did this. Speaking of,
She looks up at you with a mirthless smile.
I was on duty in your room when the murder happened. You were asleep the whole time. Didn't even stir. You're one of the only indisputably innocent people on the ship. Unless you can commit murder in your sleep, of course. Finn was killed by Source. If a Magister could do that, there wouldn't be a Magister. It looks more like a passenger managed to slip their collar. And the rest, well, you see the evidence in front of you. Listen, I could use someone to keep their ears open among the passengers. Sometimes they clam up in front of a uniform. Bring me a good lead, and I'll throw in a shiny gold coin for you. How about that? Thanks. I just want to catch whoever did this before they hurt anyone else. Did the murderer take him into this room? Or was he already here?
The hatch is blocked. I'll need to find another way.
Why won't you sing? That's enough.
You, Jill, is that right? You are Jill, aren't you? Bloody dwarves, I'll come back to you. Are you ready to talk here?
You're a really big kid. And really hairy. Oh, hi. You're a dwarf. My best friend is a dwarf. Her name is Esther. She's smaller than me, but stronger too. I'll see her when I get home.
Do you know Losa? She's a really good singer. I'm better though. Listen. La 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 la.
Ah, there you are. Husband. Would you please tell this very charming gaggle of not-at-all brat-like babes that I am by no accounts this Losa woman, nor do I sing, in fact. I'm deathly, deathly allergical. How very correct you are, spouse of mine. Madame Josephine Gribbles de Peeb refuses to be confused with anyone else. What? What's so funny?
Her pinched face cracks into a great grin, and she shoos the children away from her with a laugh.
Yeah, okay, you found me out. Go on and git, and maybe I'll sing you something when I'm good and ready.
She turns to you, dark-eyed and dirty-haired, and smiles flatly.
Gotta keep ourselves entertained, haven't we? You presume right. Nope, trying not to find anything out either. Ignorance is bliss. The utterer, the better. Thanks, but I already belong to an elite and exclusive ship gang. We play ball every day after lunch. You're too soft for it. You take care, though.
Suddenly, her eyes cloud to an unnatural black. Greyish veins run down her face, and her mouth tightens into a cruel sneer. As quickly as they came, the clouds clear. She smiles as though no change came over her.
Good luck, Chief.
Till overboiling a bit of cabbage becomes a crime, I shall hold my head steady.
Well, if it ain't the beast of the sea, I'll be. Shouldn't you be off yo-ho-hoing on your own ship instead of stowing away on this one? What about that collar, then? All part of your master plan, is it? No, no problem here.
He takes a gulp from his mug, but his eyes remain visible just over the rim, locked in a questioning stare.
As soon as the Inquisitor gets here, we'll hang you right over the side of this ship with it.
Boring.
How dare you classify this slop as food? I've seen more appetizing things coming out of plague-stricken pigs.
Name?
There's nothing else.
Well, you aren't here on my list. Scram, eh? We're trying to catch a killer here.
Unacceptable. I've never dined on anything less than a dozen-course dinner, and I don't intend to do away with it.
An elf sits tucked away in a dark spot, lazily rolling dice onto the surface of a barrel. They sound like the dry cackling of an old witch.
Snake eyes.
She chuckles.
I bet that's just what they'll look like. Rolling dice. Deciding fates. Don't worry, honey. It isn't yours.
She looks you up and down with the merest hint of a coy smile on her lips.
Never say never, though.
She eyes you quite seriously.
Not the future, no. But I can read the past, in flesh. One of the perks of being an elf, you see. I'm quite good at it, too. I could lick your arm and tell you how you spent the night before last. Shall I?
She gives your arm a vigorous stroke of the tongue, efficient like a cat grooming.
As you were forced onto this ship in the dead of night, you walked the length of the hull, running your hand along the timber as if it were a woman's thighs. I must say, I've never heard so many pet names for dead wood before. Of course it is. The truth's right there, skin deep. But don't you worry, darling. Your secret's safe with me. I don't lick and tell.
Well, there has been a murder, Your Majesty. Maybe that has the Magisters more concerned than your appetite.
Don't you get saucy with me.
Nice.
You clearly don't know the first thing about sauce.
A scruffy man lounges against the wall with scarred arms folded. A sly smile playing on his face, he stares across at the Magister guarding him. Noticing you, he straightens and beckons for you to come close.
Watch your back, new fish. There's a murderer on board, and I'd bet 3 months' pay it's this Trampithan.
Rolling his eyes at the Magister's warning, the man named Ifan beckons again. He leans in and adjusts your collar with a sharp tug, balancing its weight so it no longer presses unpleasantly on your neck. He winks.
Pinches less that way, right?
Hocking a phlegmy gobbet in your general direction, the sullen Magister settles back to his task of glowering at Ifan. And now, you.
We used to know each other, more's the pity. I was his commander many, many, many moons ago. Isn't that right, Vic?
Standing far back from Ifan, the tight-faced Magister draws one finger across his throat in an elaborate fashion, but says nothing. Ifan grins, flashing pointed white teeth.
Same as he was at 14 years old. Only difference is somebody gave him a bigger sword and now he's Johnny Big Pants. No. The dead man, Finn, is it? I'd no business with him. And I wouldn't put a man down without good reason.
He glances over at Magister Victor, who's staring back at him with pointed intensity.
Damn shame sheer annoyance isn't reason enough.
Unacceptable. I've never
The Joy, I've heard a lot. Nothing good. No surprise there, since Bishop Alexander runs the show. Wonder if we'll get to meet the ringmaster himself.
That has the Magister's more concern than your appetite.
Easy now. I might think the same, but Vic here will blow a blood vessel if he hears you talking like that.
What are you conspiring about over there? You, dwarf, what's your name?
Oh, don't mind him. Vic's just got a bee in his bonnet. And that bee is me.
Name?
Magister Victor looks at you suspiciously, then scrawls something illegible down in a tiny notebook.
Away with you, at once.
Ifan performs an elaborate pantomime of keeping quiet, one finger in front of his lips as he leans back against the wall.
I'm busy watching for clues, sorcerer. Go take your sub-story somewhere else.
Boiling cabbage becomes a crime. I shall hold my head steady. There's nothing else I can make, Your Majesty. Turnips and water are all I was...
Unacceptable. I've never touched on anything less than a dozen. I don't intend to do away with the custom.
Well, there has been a murder, Your Majesty. Maybe that has the Magister's more concern than your appetite.
Don't you get saucy with me. You clearly don't know the first thing about sauce.
Never thought you'd end up a prison guard, Vic.
That right? Always knew you'd turn out rotten, Ben Mezd. Your kind always hung closest to our divine.
Well, well. What have we here? A fresh face in this stale hell. Let's size you up, shall we? See if you'll do.
The lizard looks you up and down, like a farmer would a fetching horse. All of a sudden, he grips you firmly by the chin, with the intent of inspecting your teeth.
There's some discoloration, but I've seen worse. After all, one can't expect to find prime merchandise on a squalid little ship like this. Now then, to business. You will answer me 3 questions. The first one is this. Can you cook? Ah, music to my beleaguered stomach. On to the second question. Can you knit, weave? In short, tailor? Oh, but to feel the caress of satin on my scarlet skin once more. A most satisfactory answer indeed. On then to my final query. Have you the ability to administer the upkeep of one's personal appearance? The delicate art of cosmetics is what I'm after. The very basics, then. I suppose that's a start. So, 3 questions asked, 3 questions answered. Let's evaluate, shall we? As per your own testimony, you can cook, tailor, and groom. Well, that just about settles it. I offer you my sincerest congratulations. As of now, you are my slave. My slave, of course. Oh, but... I see. Yes, I suppose it must take some time for the full extent of this honor to sink in. Anyway, you may leave me for a moment. We'll go over your duties once we reach Fort Joy. Now shoo! How dare you classify this slop as...
I spent my life singing for my slaves to bring me my supper. Finer fare than boiled roots and rotten tubers, too. Meanwhile, the Magisters feast on honeyed meat behind this very wall. The indignity.
Like wolves around a campfire.
Well, you've got this wolf on a leash now.
As soon as the Inquisitor gets here, we'll hang you right over the side of this ship with it.
Why won't you sing? I forgot how to sing. I did.
Never thought you'd end up a prison.
The elf is reading a volume of Cranley Hubert's famous encyclopedia. He looks up, his big round eyes scanning your body, absorbing every detail. He reaches out and examines your face, tugging at your ears and prodding your nose.
Fascinating.
He sits back and returns to his book, flicking quickly from page to page, completely oblivious to your presence. The elf reaches towards you to continue his examination, and you slap his hand down. Apparently, this guy doesn't get jokes.
Oh dear. I seem to have crossed some cultural taboo. How difficult. You have my apologies, dwarf. Perhaps I should demand the same from those red-cloaked humans. They laid their hands on me more than once.
Turnips and water are all I was given.
Perhaps. Perhaps not. Understanding is all rather relative. Take this book, for example. I understand all of it, and yet none of it makes sense. It is simultaneously too detailed and insufficient. I know the beginning of this tale and the end, but I am rather missing the middle. Tell me, what do you know of our world's history? Most unusual, and if it's not too rude to suggest, not much of an answer. No, I want to know about the Celestial. I want to know about your gods. This text tells me that they created all creatures, but nothing of what came before. Where did these gods come from? Who are their people? Where are the others of their kind?
The elf's face freezes for just a second before he waves his hand dismissively.
Oh, it's just one of my idle curiosities. We mortals do like to consider these things, do we not? Now please, run along. I have a world to decipher.
Here to register, sir. Good, good. Magister Williams is just about done with the last passenger. You faring okay so far? I'm glad to hear it. You head on in now. Williams will get you sorted fast.
Well, keep those bolts trained on her, and if she tries to run, shoot to kill. You seem on edge, officer. What on earth is the matter? Murder most foul, and I strongly suspect you know all about it. Keep those bolts trained on her, and if she tries to run, shoot to kill. Right. You seem on edge, officer. What on earth is the matter? Murder most foul, and I strongly suspect you know all about it. Keep those bolts trained on her,
perhaps
and if she tries to run, shoot to kill.
You seem on edge, officer. What on earth is the matter?
Murder most foul, and I strongly suspect you know all about it.
Turnips and water
Do you?
are all I was given.
Well, perhaps you're absolutely right.
Standing at the center of the room, you spot a sorcerer haughtily eyeing a pair of nervous-looking magisters. They keep their crossbow trained upon her as she's being interrogated by an officer.
So you admit it then? You murdered that poor fella?
Yes, I did. But of course, that was only the beginning.
She turns her head and looks you straight in the eye.
There are others whose lives must end.
Good God, the woman's mad. You there, sorcerer, go and fetch Magister Siwan. We need to do more than collar this maniac. We need to shackle her, hands and feet.
By all means, do as the officer says. But you had better hurry, because...
She reaches for her collar and simply removes it.
I'm just about to create a scene.
Subdue her, men, quickly! If she casts Source, the Voidwoken will come. They'll end us all.
She smiles with wicked satisfaction.
Precisely.
What's happened? this thing snaps into splinters. That doesn't bode well. Onwards and upwards.
Thank the gods! By divine grace, what was...
He eyes the collar circling your neck and reaches a hand towards his blade.
Another sorcerer!
The Magister's companion doesn't blink, frozen in place at the sight of you.
Like you don't know? Mutiny! Did that witch fix your collar too?
He whispers loudly to the other Magister.
Don't just cower there, Rix! Take out your blade!
Rix grabs his sword, which shakes in the rhythm of his trembling hand. The Magisters look to each other, then back to you, and unsheath their blades with a metallic zing.
Your lies end here!
Damn it! To get off this wreck, and quick! Gods! Something's pounding on the hull!
bursts through the door and are suddenly face to face with an undead. His skull is bizarrely angular, and a glorious jewel sits in the middle of his forehead. The skeleton is quickly leafing through a volume of Cranley Hubert's famous encyclopedia, muttering to himself.
No, no, no! What damn fools record knowledge on a pulped tree? It catches fire, it turns into must when wet, it cannot even resist acid! No wonder they're so bloody ignorant.
The skeleton looks up and notices you for the first time.
Oh, it's you. Shouldn't you be running and screaming or some such?
The skeleton groans and looks back to his book, frantically flipping from page to page.
Yes, indeed. It's the look of someone that wants to read the bloody book he's holding. Now, if you're really quite finished, I believe you have lifeboats to flee to.
The skeleton holds up his book in one quick, frustrated movement.
I am trying to discover if there is anyone worth saving, and I will be damned if I let the lives of some mayflies get it. Go on, go, swim or drown or do whatever takes.
The door was painted recently, judging from its pungent scent. You don't recognize the symbol, but it's clearly warning you. You press your palm against the door to open it. The wood feels neither cold nor warm, but simply grey. The color drains from your hand, and you are left numb. It doesn't budge. The door groans open, but an ashen shadow clouds your mind.
Death fog? I need to get out of here now. That means there's still a chance.
Shut your trap, kid. Children and dwarfs first, just like the old stories say.
The dwarf yanks at one of the nearby ropes to no avail.
You said there were other people down there. We need to help them.
You see those tentacles, kid? It's time to get the hell out of here.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. There's a ladder right over there. You can go straight down.
You're gonna be the death of us, you hear?
The Magister lies on the floor, unconscious and bleeding from a dire-looking...
If you can walk, get yourself up the ladder. There's a Wait, Voidwoken!
I thought Voidwoken was supposed to be scary.
I've faced worse.
Let the games begin.
They who are about to triumph. Let's not tarry. This old tub is about to burst.
They smell even worse dead than alive. Let's head above decks for some air.
She tries to speak, but can only gape as she clutches her neck, trying to stem the bleeding of a gushing wound. With jagged movements, she raises her clenched fist and holds out a length of cloth, soaked with some kind of strong-smelling tincture. Blood quickly soaks through the cloth. Magister Siwan's mouth opens and closes, her eyes wide in terror. It's working. The pressure is stemming the flow of blood. Siwan clutches your arm, her eyes locked with yours. Something within the ship snaps. The floorboards shudder. Siwan struggles to her feet, clinging to you tightly. The ship lets out a deep groan, then cracks.
Ripping the ship apart! This is it! She's going down!
I have plans for you, child. Rise.
Honorable Dallas, we lost a ship sailing sorcerer prisoners to Fort Joy. We assume some escaped and broke their collars. Their vile magic lured the Voidwoken. All who were aboard are presumed dead. Yours faithfully into eternity, High Judge Oriven.